Kostaki Economopoulos tweets, I've played poker with Louis C.K. He's terrible because he always falls in love with his hand. John Cleese says, one of the surviving pythons tells me I should apologize for playing Genghis Khan. Hey, my great-great-grandmother was half Mongolian, but I don't think that was enough of an excuse. Also, Genghis was a keen empire builder, and so not a good role model for young people today. Conan O'Brien tweets, people are calling for the presidential debates to be canceled, but if that happens, how will I decide who to vote for? The ever-so-serious Hari Kondabolu says, Trump's motto is, if at first you don't succeed, just tell people you succeeded. Mark Norman said, I just got an email from the post office. Come on, guys, if you don't believe in your product, why should I? And Ricky Gervais reminds us, always have water and shade available for your dog. Watch out for hot pavements, and if you leave them in a car, you're a stupid cunt. Enjoy the sunshine. An article caught my eye, and this is how we'll spend today's podcast. This is from the August 3rd, 2020 issue of New York Magazine. The title, When Black People Appear on Seinfeld. White sitcoms of late have disavowed the misbegotten race play of television's recent past. Contrary to prior negligence, shows such as Scrubs and 30 Rock have pulled episodes featuring blackface from streaming platforms as a way of making amends. Even episodes like It's Always Sunny's D. Reynolds Shaping America's Youth, which cracks wise about the absurdities of racial performance, got the axe. But black people have never been non-existent or invisible in the white sitcom. They've been invisible only in the way that black people who service the margins of the white world making must be. In a genre whose conventions and hilarity thrive on white ridiculousness, black people, relegated to the smallest of parts, exist to rein in the free play of whites, reminding viewers how safely deviant the main cast can be. No show exhibits this effect as quietly as the one that crested in lockstep with the 90s culture wars, the quintessential sitcom, and in one woman's opinion, the greatest, Seinfeld. I speak of certain characters often deprived of a name. All right, ready to dive in here? This is pretty interesting. We have the florist, the agency rep, the orderly who bars George from his fiance's cousin's delivery room. There were the two Walters who saddle Elaine with too much cake, the co-producer of Scarsdale Surprise who arrives with a threat to take Kramer's Tony away, all the people George stalks, desperate for a friend to call black, some of them with names such as Joe and Remy, a father and daughter who have already made the mistake of letting this nebbish into their lives and onto their now juice-stained couch. Black people on Seinfeld play a very particular role, defining the social edges of very or too much. A thankless job, to be sure. There's no glory in it, where it seems much fun. I am charmed, though, writes Lauren Michelle Jackson. They foil the black bestie type, the sidekick destined to and live in a white protagonist script and social life with idioms and shade. All the bombast, wackiness, and camp belong in the domain of the four protagonists, Jerry, George, Elaine, and Kramer, plus a rotating circle of co-conspirators. The conceit of Seinfeld resides in its middle-class sympathies. In truth, the group is selfish and deranged, delicious micro-menaces to normalcy and etiquette who nonetheless enter and leave each episode with their worlds intact. When white characters run wild on Seinfeld, black people are cops. They exist as agents of public decency, next to whom our main characters appear all the more indecent. Consider the Diplomats Club, in which George compels Mr. Morgan to take a Polaroid with him, a naked attempt to brown-nose his black boss, and preempt an impending staff reorganization in the Yankees front office. Shouldering up next to the unenthused supervisor, George tells Mr. Morgan he resembles the boxer Sugar Ray Leonard, and says, yeah, you must hear that all the time. Mr. Morgan says, I suppose we all look alike to you, right, Costanza? George looks for solidarity among his colleagues, all white, who file out of the room on cue. As many plots with Mr. Morgan demonstrate, George is unfit for work, unfit therefore for adulthood, and unfit for life. In the alternate side, George fills in for Sid, whose car parking gig literally crashes and burns under George's control. In the airport, Elaine slips in a first class from coach and stumbles into an open window seat, caught out of turn by the composed black flight attendant with a French twist. She pleads and bargains and pouts and shouts. The stewardess sends her back to when she came, gently rolling her eyes while Elaine jerks the dividing curtain to and fro. Seinfeld is never absent from stereotypes, not with his penchant for ethnicized characters, but here only the cherished have the privilege of genuine buffoonery. Disruption is good. Scenes are engineered to be stolen by the over-the-top white in the room, to whom the scene always belonged in the first place. The show's most audacious black presence materializes in the character of Jackie Childs, played by Phil Morris. Jackie gets a start in The Maestro as the can't-lose lawyer in pursuit of a settlement over the latte that burned Kramer in the previous episode. In the finale, an undisguised clip show, past encounters parade into the courtroom with all the subtlety of the final act. Represented by Childs, naturally, the four leads are on trial for violating a rural county's Good Samaritan law. The prosecution calls character witnesses to establish a pattern of antisocial behavior that's going on for years. The court's head is convicted. The show can end no other way, just desserts for the delinquents. Yet this is no crime procedural. And the show's not over. Jerry, George, Elaine, and Kramer stroll to their cell and their bit resumes. We'll be out in a year and then we'll be back. Jerry says, shrugging. Conversation picks up. Consequences fall away. It's just the four, white and unfazed. Very, very good article there. Check that out. It's in the August 3rd, 2020 issue of New York Magazine. Nice job, Lauren Michelle Jackson. Enjoyed that very much. That's your comedy news for today. Subscribe on Apple or Google. Follow on Spotify. See you tomorrow.